Okay, let's go ahead and review our ArchiCAD tip of the week. Today, as I mentioned, we're going to discuss how to manage XREFs documents. So with XREFs documents, of course, you go to the external content, XREFs manager, and that will bring the XREFs manager up, where you can select from your XREFs manager the document you want to place. The left button will display all X references here on the list view. If you go to the tree view, it's going to show a hierarchical tree structure of the DWG file, which could also include other types of references as well. So in the XREFs manager, there are a number of options here. If you have come from a background in AutoCAD, you may know some of these kinds of things in terms of what these options are. I'm going to go through these just so everybody understands this. There's the reference name, which is the first option there, which of course is the name of the reference. The status, that's whether it has been loaded, detached, reloaded, unloaded, or bound. I'm going to talk about those different options in a minute, but you can kind of see those buttons to the right there, and that's what that's referring to. There's the size of the reference file. There's also the type of that external reference. Is it attached? So in this case, it's attached. If I click detach, it'll show detach, reload, unload, bind. So that's really what it's showing there is the type. Its date, which is the last date the file was modified. INSTS is instances. It's the number of instances of certain external reference files attached to the project. So in this case, there's only one attached to it, but there could be other references that are nested in it. So if there are other nested references, it will show additional ones there as well. And then finally, what translator was used for this X reference, in this case, the O2 for editable. So as I mentioned, there are several different options here for managing these reference documents. So attach is basically when you click this button, you're clicking to attach an X reference to it. Okay. If you have an X reference and you select it in that dialog, you can also click to detach it, which means it's going to close the dialog box or remove it from the project file. If you want to use it again, you're going to have to go back to the attach option again and add it as an X reference. And the status column will reflect that by showing it's a detached state. When the X reference is detached, the dialog will also choose between retaining or removing the attached X reference attributes, including layers, line types, and fills. This is important to remember because when you have detached the X reference, and as I mentioned, or I should say, when you attach it originally, it will bring in layers, it will bring in line types, it will bring in fills. And when you detach it, you want to make sure to get rid of any of those that it brought in, typically. Now, you may want to keep those if those are specific things that you want. But oftentimes, you're going to want to also remove those attributes. Reload is when the DWG or X reference has been modified. So again, they've sent you a new update. ArchiCAD's currently open, and so you want to reload that X reference. If the ArchiCAD file, if you're opening ArchiCAD file by default, so it's not open yet, and you've already updated, you've replaced the X reference in your system with a new file, when you open it, it's going to automatically update the ArchiCAD file. But if the ArchiCAD file is currently open and you just updated the file in your system, then you need to click the reload button. The unload button keeps the selected external reference file attached to the project file, but unloads it from your memory. So the file's content will not appear on the floor plan. Okay, so it's in the memory, it can still be placed, but it's not appearing on the floor plan. So it's still in there. You can still use it, but you're not going to see it in the state of the project. So again, it's just for you to use in the further. Should you want to make it work again, you click the reload button, and it will make it reappear. And then finally is bind. When I used to work in AutoCAD, we would do this from time to time where we wanted to bind the X reference to a file, which is basically like if you were to an ArchiCAD, for example, if you had a library part and you want to make that library part a part of the file, you can explode it. It's kind of the same concept, bind or explode. When you bind an XReference, the layer names of the XReference will also take on the format. So meaning that they'll no longer be a separate file name. They will now be layers in your project file that will now have this sort of XReference underscore name and this $ number, $ layer name. It will actually become that. And the same thing for pins and so forth. It will show that, so it distinguishes that those were actually, that information actually came from an XReference. So that will all become part of your file. So that is our tip of the week. Let me go ahead and